Hey folks, the sampler is the most powerful device in any environment, if you ask me. And if I had to limit myself to certain devices, I would say the sampler is on top of my list because you can do pretty much everything with it. You can do lead sounds, pad sounds, kick drums, you can slice, sample, just can do everything. So just a sampler, an EQ, maybe a reverb, and you can produce whole songs in no time. And it makes you very creative to use just the sampler, if you ask me. So I want to give you a lot of ideas what you can do with the sampler because someone asked me in my Discord, so I want to do that. Also, I show you how to slice probably in the first example, so you don't need to watch the whole video, okay? Okay, so in Bitwig, we can just use here a sampler. This is how it looks like, ta-da! And we want to use a drum loop here. I just use this one. You can see already this is 2 bars, right? 170 BPM, but at the moment we use 110 BPM here in the DAW. So when I lay down here, let's say a note clip 2 bars long and play it back, it doesn't fit. Okay, so let's play this. Right, it just stops here because it's 110 BPM and this one plays exactly at the speed of 170 BPM. There's also key tracking here, so when we change the key, we change the pitch, and we also change the playback speed. Right, it's not really useful. So of course it works if I just use your 170 BPM. It works perfectly fine. It matches perfectly. So yeah, that's not always the use case. So what we can do with this kind of information here is we can say, oh, these are actually 2 bars. Interesting. So why not use here the freeze mode? So the freeze mode actually changes the sampler into a mode where you have to change the position manually, right? If we just keep this here at this position, nothing really happens. If you switch to textures mode, it just plays this kind of grain, this position here in a loop. Right? So what we can do with this information is we use here repitch mode, we use a classic LFO, and we use this in timing mode, and we switch this to 2-1. So this is 2 bars. And we use a ramp. What this does is it actually creates a ramp starting at 0 going up to 1 in the time frame of exactly 2 bars. And we also have to disable your bipolar mode, so we are just in the positive range, so from 0 to 1 instead from -1 to +1. So 0 to 1, and this one plays it back exactly in the time frame of 2 bars. This is 2 bars long. We have this in freeze mode, so all we have to do is modulate here the position knob by 100%. And yeah, if we play this back, the LFO is exactly time synced to the BPM of the project, which is 170 BPM. And it gives us a ramp over 2 bars, and we play this 2 bars back in exactly the right playback speed. So now watch what happens when I go down here with the BPM. Right, the loop still matches, but it changes pitch. So we pitch it down because we change the playback speed, because we change the project BPM playback speed. So this is what happens. So this is in my opinion, it's pretty fine to use it like this, but you can switch this here also to textures mode. So now it doesn't change the pitch. So it works like every classical stretch algorithm. It just uses small little audio grains and just plays these back in a loop. You can hear, we can also change the grain size here, of course. But you can also hear that kind of the sound is smeared. You have like these small little phasing issues if the grain size is smaller than the wavelength of 20 hertz or whatever, and it feels like a sound or like a phase shift. So it's not always nice. But when you want to pitch down certain drum loops and you kind of like the sound of the early 90s, then this is perfectly fine in my opinion. You can also switch this to cycles mode. It sounds a bit different. So if you just want to play back the first half here, you can of course go here with this position to the beginning of the second bar inside of this drum loop. But now you don't need to use two bars, because we only select your 1 bar. So what you do now is you play this back at halftime. I hope this is clear, because we use a time frame of 2 bars, but we only play back 1 bar, so the 1 bar is stretched out to 2 bars. Okay, so we have half time more or less. So we need to switch this here to 1-1, which is 1 bar, and then it fits again. So perfectly fine. And you don't need to use the classic LFO here. You can also use the curve modulator, for instance. With this one, with the curve modulator, you have a bit more options. You can just use this here, but it's more configuration. You have to reset. We don't want to use smoothing here, probably. We don't use the bipolar setting. And we simulate here a ramp like this. And we want to go to bar, and we have 1 bar here. So instead of this modulator, we use this one, but we do the same trick. But now you can do maybe something like this here. So we halve this like this. So now we play back basically the first part 2 times. Or we do it from here to here, and we go back to that. Is this actually right? Something like this, yeah. Like this. Let's see how this sounds. So with the curve modulator, you can jump to certain things here. You can change the playback speed, so you can make this here a bit faster. Slower. So you can influence the playback speed and you get different results. So the curve modulator is a bit more, it can make more effects. But if you just want to change the playback speed, the classic LFO is just enough, all you need. Okay, so this is basically stretching and changing the playback speed automatically. I thought, or I remember a lot of people wanted to know how to do this, how to do stretching with the sampler. So you can influence here with the textures mode the playback speed without changing the pitch. That's all you need sometimes. Okay, so the next trick or tip is to actually use slicing or some kind of simple form of slicings. And for some reason, the sampler doesn't have a slicing feature. They revamped this in Bitwig 2.0, I think, but they never really added a slicing mode. So what we can do with this is we can say, oh, this is actually 1 bar, and it's probably a drum loop that is on the beat grid, and the beat grid has 16 note, 8 notes, which is just a subdivision of 1 bar. Okay, so we have 1 bar here. Use a macro knob, call this position, for instance, and then we use a quantizer. And we modulate here with the macro knob, the quantizer, by exactly 100%. Bam. And then we use the quantizer output to modulate here the position, the playback position. And 0%, 100% means always the range between the start and the end point here in the sampler, right? So this is now 100%. And then we can say we want to subdivide this into 8 equal parts, which are more or less 8 notes. You can see we switch now here to the different positions, and maybe I disable here the freeze mode, go to 100% speed, and you can see we switch here to the first kick drum, hi-hat, kick, snare drum, hi-hat, right? Hi-hat, open hi-hat, kick drum, snare, and so on. And this only works because the drum loop is exactly on a beat grid, on a straight beat grid, so there's no swing, so none of these hi-hats or snares or kick drums are kind of off the grid, so it kind of works, right? Normally with the slicing mode you have a sensitivity knob and you pull down the sensitivity and then you get all the transients even though they are not on the grid. So here it kind of works because it's straight. So this is just as a disclaimer. Right, and you can start from a different position here inside of the drum sample. So this is kind of neat, but the first question is probably how can I map this out to notes? So each note represents some kind of sample. This is kind of also possible here. We use a key track modulator, and I use the relative key track modulator here. And I modulate the position by 100% with the key track modulator. And in the inspector, we can change the key track modulator to a different spread range. So here it's plus minus 64 semitones, which is a bit too high. And I'm using here exactly 8 because we are using inside of Quantizer here also an 8-note subdivision, okay? So with this, we just modulate the position, and the position is then quantized here to 8 equal parts or equal subdivisions, and then we use the output of the quantizer to change the position inside here of this one bar. And yeah, with this we can say here C is actually the kick drum, this is the first hi-hat, this is the first snare, and we can subdivide also the other notes, right, something like this. And it works better or the best if you have all these modulators on monophonic. So here the position macro is per voice is disabled. Also here per voice on quantize is disabled, and on the key track we need to disable here per voice. And sometimes it's even nice to bring down the voices of the sampler itself. Polyphonic, 24 voices. We only want to use one voice. So each note chokes out the note or the sample before, because sometimes you have a sample playing and then you start a new sample and it overlaps and it's not the right position and so on. So this works the best, right? And a problem here is that when you play, for instance here, the kick drum, and the next sample, the next slice is not triggering fast enough, you play basically back the whole rest of the sample. But now we can change also the playback speed, but the triggering is still on time, on the right position. Maybe 2 hi-hats here. Sadly, and I don't know why, but in the sampler you can't modulate the end point here, the end position. I guess it's because of calculating here the percentages for the loops and for the position. But if you could modulate the end point of the sampler, we can say, oh, give me only one slice. start point, end point of the slice, right? And then you play it back once, and then it never plays back the end of the rest of the sample. Would be nice. We can switch this here to loop mode and just use here the output of the quantizer for the loop position or the loop start position. And then maybe just duplicate here these two modulators, position and the quantizer, and call this end with the macro. And here we use the same 8 thing, and we use this for the length. The quantizer, the second quantizer goes out to the length. And we don't want to modulate here the end position knob with the key track. We only want to have here one slice. Oh, it's actually not right. Let me see. This should work. Okay, endpoint is correct. Yeah, this should kind of work. Resolution is 8. Resolution is 8. We can also use 16 notes here. 16, 16. So, like I said, this only works when you have a straight down loop and you know exactly, oh, this part of my sample is exactly 1 bar in the original time frame, and then you can just subdivide it, and when there's no groove or no swing inside of the sample, it works perfectly nice, and you don't need to use the transient detector or anything like this. I think you can also let me try this here. Yeah, there's the end. Let's loop this part here. But here the loop is on, right? So when you hit the end of the slice, it starts from the beginning again. Yeah, it's not perfect. Also interesting, we could just take here a random modulator, switch this to hold, switch this to note. So every time we trigger with a new note, we generate a new value, and then we hold the value for the rest of the gate. So we can change the playback speed at random. So like this, we can also change at random the playback mode from repitch to cycles to textures at random on each note. And then we can duplicate this here again, maybe switch this here to textures mode, and use this modulator, this random modulator for the playback, not the playback speed, maybe the grain size. I don't know what's best there. Yeah, this is still modulated on the cycles mode. We want to maybe randomize the format here. Make this bipolar because we want to go also in the negative range. Yeah, it could be something, I don't know. So you can slice it up and play it back in all kinds of different ways and colors, just with a bunch of modulators here. I hope this is clear. I probably make a extensive post about these features in a more step-by-step guide on my website. I think some people like this more instead of me having to ramble with my words, right? So they have a step-by-step guide what they need to do to get a certain outcome. Okay, so this was the slicing, how I did the slicing. By the way, I also have an auto slicer. This is not a kind of patch you can use on the native sampler. You have to use the grid for that. It's a bit more complicated, but there's also a video. I made a video about this, right? So what you can do with this here, you can load in a drum sample, like the same thing we used before here, right? And let me see, pull this down here. And there's a scan mode, so we put this on, and he scans through the sample and just tries to find some transients with this. Right, so we use here all these nodes to trigger certain things inside of the sample. Yeah, and there's some transient detection here. So this also should work for drum sounds that are not on a straight grid. So here's a real transient detector in there. I basically scan through the whole thing. If there's a transient in there, I write it into the array, and then I just record it with certain notes you play on the keyboard. So this is a separate video I made a few years ago, and I think also the slicer is completely free if you want to try this out. Yeah, kind of works. Not the best solution, but it's fun nonetheless. Okay. So yeah, let's switch this back here to the initial idea. So yeah, these are how to use slicing and stretching with drum sounds and playing back drum loops in certain type of tempos, match it to the BPM of the project, pretty easy. But we can also do some other things, right? So in here, there are some parts we can just use for looping. So let's say this part here, right? It's just actually just a sine, and you can use the loop. Have the loop end, loop start, and loop length. That's also what we need. Okay. So when you just use here a small part of this sound, we have more or less like a synthesizer. And we have filters on top. So it's not a sampler anymore. It's actually a synthesizer or wavetable synthesizer. But instead of using here the endpoint or the start or the endpoint of the loop, we can also switch to cycles mode, which is exactly that. And if you zoom in here, you can see all these small little sections from the cycles mode, and it plays it back with a certain playback speed. But we can also switch freeze on. We can go here to a certain point like here, and we get the sound out of it. So the cycles mode is actually just a wavetable mode, because it uses certain cycles of the sound or of the sample to play it back at audio rate. So we can make this better by just using maybe velocity here, expressions, and we say this is quite nice here, but when we hit the keyboard harder, we move the position up. Right, and then we use a bit of release. Then we can say we have your key tracking enabled 100%. So when I change the key on the keyboard, the frequency changes here. So we center this to C3. C3 is exactly in the middle. So now when I play a key on the keyboard, this switches to exactly the position of the frequency of the note I'm playing on the keyboard. And then I can use maybe high pass, 4-pole high pass, and a bit of resonance. And we have a tonal center for the sound. Let me pull up here the spectrum analyzer. Open this up. Right, this is here the resonance of our high pass filter. You pull this down, right, it goes down. So we make certain sounds tonal by just adding a low sign partial and just say to our brain, this is the fundamental, this is the sound, okay? And then everything on top from the sample is more or less like texture. Then we can switch this back here to polyphonic mode. Then we can search maybe positions here. Yeah, maybe a reverb, like always. So if you have the sampler, you can just load any sample. It doesn't matter. You can make sounds out of everything. If you have a really long sample here, it's just you can see it as a very long wavetable, and you just loop small parts of it, and you can make any sound out of it. So it doesn't really matter what kind of sound you use. I have no idea. Oh, these are actually just drum sounds here, huh? Moan woman, okay. Yeah, maybe a random modulator here. Very slow. And you modulate, of course, here the position slightly. So I have no idea why people buy plugins. I have no idea. You just put some random shit into the sampler and you can make so many different sounds. It's endless. It's infinite. I have no idea why people buy granular synthesizers en masse. And a lot of plugin developers sell this like hotcakes, and I have no idea why. You just use a random sample. You just sample something that's completely random and you put it into the sampler, put on cycles mode or textures mode, and you can tweak this in all kinds of directions. It's impossible, infinite amounts of sounds, okay? Put a reverb on it, a nice reverb. Valhalla reverb is even, it's free. It's free, it's the best sounding ambient reverb, and you get everything out of it that you can imagine. So yeah, so this is basically how you make out of random things nice tonal sounds. You use the key tracker, you use some kind of resonance on a nice low pass or high pass here, or even a band pass. Band pass is nice. You can cut out some of the low end of the sound and some of the top end, and then you just focus on the center frequency here. So it's a different sound, more toned down. So let's say we don't like this so high pitched, why not go down one octave? Or even lower. Yeah, I know I have no peak limit on the master. I know it. Okay, I know it. Oh yeah. And this is just one sampler. You can switch this here to a voice stack. Let's say 3 voice stacks. And use a stack modulator. Let's go -1 to +1, and we say we modulate here the panning with this by 100%, which means stack 1 is on the left side, stack 2 is on the middle, and stack 3 is on the right side, okay? And then we want to use maybe another stack modulator from 0 to 1, and then we use this to modulate here the position, which means stack 1, stack 2, and stack 3 get different playback positions within the sample. So you layer multiple sounds, spread them out across the stereo field. See how this sounds? Oh, I need to turn up the volume. You can see here, this is stack 1, stack 2, or this is stack 1, 2, 3. And you can see these are spread apart, always in the same way. But we can now add here a macro and say this macro modifies the amount of the pan and also the amount of the playhead spread for each stack, right? So now we can define here with this knob how these stacks are spread apart. And why not just modulate this stuff? Slowly, of course. Get nice stereo fields. Also interesting for stacking if you want to make sounds dense, or if you don't like the sound of the stretching, then you can just double and use different settings and you smear it out. You make it more dense in a way. But I want to show you this on this drum sound here again, because it's much clearer what I mean. So here we have the drum sound. So we want to switch off here maybe the key tracking. Okay, and then we want to use the classic LFO. We switch this to timing mode to 1 because these are 2 bars. We switch this to textures mode. We use the freeze knob and we use here ramp. Use no tree trigger. We don't need bipolar, and we modulate here the position. Right, and you can hear every kind of small little loop inside of the stretching. So we can say we want to double this here with voice stacking, let's say 5 voices. Use a stack modulator, stack spread, and we change some of the settings. So we say maybe we change the grain size here slightly on each stack. Or maybe the position. So each stack has a slightly different position. Let's try out here a different pitch. Maybe this is the way to go. Disable this, go to -1 to +1, so we modulate up and down in pitch. Oh, the sound also nice. It doesn't sound better, but it's kind of sound nice. Maybe we use more stacks. So you can influence how this kind of stretching algorithm sounds like by just layering multiple stretch samples or stretch samples and change some of the parameters how the sample is stretched, and you get some different results, as you can see here, by just changing the pitch and grain and panorama or pen. And yeah, you get different results. So you can experiment with this if you are not happy with the very basic stretch sound here. This one, right? If it sounds too basic to you, then you can change and smear it out. And sometimes this works really great for pad sounds. If you have like a very short lead sound or just a pluck sound, but you want to make a pad sound out of it, so you make it longer, right? You stretch it out. And then you have all these artifacts, and you can hide some of these artifacts by just smearing and using different parameters for different settings. And using voice stacking, of course. And like I said in the beginning, you should use the sampler like a real sampler. So maybe just sample some random stuff and make or try to make music with it, because it gives you some unique opportunities, some unique sounds. And I use here the master record feature for that most of the times. So I use an audio track here, select my microphone input, and it doesn't matter. You don't need to use a very good microphone, just use anything. You can tweak it in the process. So maybe we want to make a kick drum, right? So you make a kick drum noise. Something like this, very basic. So we have here the sample, drag the sample in. We have a sampler, we disable here the key tracking. We single out here this kind of sound. Let's see how it sounds. Very basic, of course. And then we can use here the high pass filter, put this to a frequency around 70 Hertz. A lot of resonance for the sine wave. So you get a lot of bass. Maybe a bit shorter from the envelope. And we need some kind of pitch drop, so we use a segments envelope here. No looping, no smoothing, seconds. Make this very short, no polyphonic. We remove here the dots and create a nice pitch envelope. And we modulate here maybe, yeah, the frequency. Maybe we create here a pattern, a kick drum pattern. Let's make some four to the floor stuff here. So yeah, 120 BPM, 24, 124, something like this. Maybe a bit longer. So we can use here the segments for that, just modify here the cutoff, but we don't modify actually the pitch of the sample, which is okay. You can just do that here like I did it. But sometimes you just want to pitch both of them, and we can make use of the note feature here. So we can say pitch tracking is on. And this one uses also here key tracking. Let's go to 100%. And then you use a bend device from Bitwig here, where you can add MPE information. And we can create a pitch drop here that lasts around, I don't know, 20 milliseconds. Yeah, so this is more or less a nice kick drum, or an okay kick drum. Okay, so then we use here to make some hi-hats, so we record that. Put this in. Maybe use this one here first. No key tracking. Small little pattern for the hi-hats. You can also use your velocity. We have to enable here the velocity sensitivity. So it's 4 to the floor, so we maybe want to accentuate here the offbeats. Like this. That's maybe not the right. Yeah, that's better. So when we have here these expressions, when we have a lot of velocity, we maybe want to make this longer. Like this. We can also use here this part. Yeah, something like this. So this is the hi-hats. Then we want to use maybe a clap sound here. Let's see how this sounds. Yeah, nice. So we just use the first one. So yeah, no key tracking again. Yeah, nice. So to make this a bit dense, we just clone this here, put this into an instrument layer, duplicate this, and yeah, here we use the second point. And the third one. And the fourth one. So we can pan this here a bit in each direction. Or maybe we can use here the panning of the instrument layer device. I don't know if this fits. Yeah, kinda. So yeah, this is a clap. We maybe put an EQ on that. Maybe it's too loud. On the kick, we can also put here an EQ, EQ5. Just focus on the frequencies that are important here for the kick drum. Maybe it's not so much mids. Okay, so maybe we add some chords to it. So maybe use some sounds here. Put this in a sampler. Can we detect the pitch? Right click, detect root. It's D#3. Yes. So, okay, then we put maybe a filter on it. Maybe high pass. That's better. And a lot of delay. Yeah, we do the same thing, and here maybe, I don't know. Or we go to and maybe a bit of reverb. Can influence this a bit more with the EQ. Q5. Chords. So we can add maybe also here a small little pad sound or drone sound or something like this. Something toned down. Can we pitch track this? Detect the pitch. Wow, this is C3? Okay, nice. Let's see if this fits. We need to loop it, of course. Don't need that. Something like this. And we need some kind of bass. So whoa. Let's use something like this. Pitch track, hello? Nah, impossible that this is. Yeah, it's G1, okay. Yeah, let's make it first. Nice. Okay. So use also here an high pass with a lot of resonance. A bit shorter. And maybe an octave lower. And we use a peak limiter. So we push here the sample up by 12 semitones, so the pitch stays on the same thing, right? But the sample is pitched up. It doesn't really work. Let's see if we can bring out here some overtones with an EQ5. So we can record this here with the automation. Where is it? Yeah. Here in front, this is better. And then we also automate this a bit. Yeah. So this is how we can build basically drums or songs or ideas just by sampling sounds and using a bit of filtering and pitch bending and adding modulators and so on. And you don't need to use any samples, and it's very unique and yeah, maybe also a creative way of creating tracks. I don't know, I just want to give you some examples. It's probably not the best example here, but it kind of works. Okay, so that's that. So the last tip is also something I showed you in a video earlier this year, where you want to use a sound inside of the sampler like a normal instrument, but it's not possible because the sound consists of multiple different notes inside of a scale, and when you transpose it around, you push certain notes in the sample outside of the scale because you just transpose it up or down. It's basically like planing, or however this is called. So I fake here creating a sound or a sample with multiple notes by just so this is now some kind of sample here, and we put this into the sampler, right? And you have like, you want to play this in a scale. You can say here, this is a note, this is a note. So all of these notes are kind of in a certain note range, but you can't play it like a real instrument because you have all these notes that are outside of scale. You basically want only one note in here, but it's not possible. So what you can do then, or what I do, is I prepare the sample before I put it into the sampler. And I use on top of that here maybe something like a comp filter. A comp filter gives you the response or the frequency response of the harmonic series. It's actually exactly what you have when you have a sound and you build up basically on top of that. So it filters out or gives you more the feeling of this is actually just one sound instead of multiple notes. It sounds like this. And you put this here maybe on C3 and add some resonance. So some of the sounds resonate more with the comp filter and some of them less. And the comp filter here in Bitwig it doesn't sound really nice. The one in the FX grid sounds much nicer. FX nice? No. FX grid. So here we can use the comp filter. And it also features nice pitch tracking, of course. So we put this here on C3. Nice. And then we just make the same or do the same thing. Right, so it's more like, it sounds, of course, more digital or more processed, but it gives you a much better, yeah, much better feel of this is only one sound. And you can play it then basically in a polyphonic way. You can play multiple notes in there, kind of add up. So it's maybe not working here, but maybe I slow this down. Reverb on that. You can also always go here to some kind of filter, a bandpass filter, right, and just amplify the fundamental frequency of the current playing note. But sometimes you want to keep all the overtones, and that's why I prefer sometimes using here the comp filter and having then here the center frequency of C3, then you put it into the sampler. Here it's then C3, and when you play multiple notes you can combine them, and it sounds kind of better than just using the regular piano because of the problems I just told you. So here when I use the original one, right, you can hear then some of these notes go out of scale because you play the scale and you transpose the complete scale around. So it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, that's the comp filter. I made a video about this a while ago. Maybe you want to watch this. Maybe I had some better explanations back then. But yeah, that's it basically. Okay, I hope everything is clear as water, clear as ice. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Leave a thumbs up. Ask me questions. Maybe I'll do another one, a better one. This one was also right from the top of my head. Some tips. Maybe there are more things to explain, but that's it. Okay. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.